Eileen?
Good evening. It's April 26th, and I'm calling to order the regular monthly meeting of the Norwalk Parking Authority. I am the Vice Chairman, Matt Seebeck, and I am looking to confirm the presence of a quorum with Board Member Fulham and Board Member Ailey, who are both present, and we therefore have a quorum. I'd like to open up for public comment, where we will limit any members of the public to 3 minutes, but they're welcome to speak if there are any members of the public at this time.
There are not.
Excellent. I would like to amend the agenda. I'd like to move to amend the agenda to bring Mr. Bedoli's presentation, which is currently listed under new business, to number 3, if possible. I would entertain that motion from either of the members.
I'll make a motion to move Mr. Bedoli up.
And I can second.
And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we have amended the agenda. Thank you. Just like to open up, like to note the meetings from the previous meeting, which were distributed and posted on the city's website. Are there any comments or amendments to the posted minutes from the previous meeting of March 22nd? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as posted.
There's a motion on the floor. Mr. Fulham, may I request a second?
Oh, a second. Okay, I didn't know. We're short
That's
on
okay.
people. Okay, second.
We're short this evening.
We're
Yes.
short 2 people.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Thank you. And all those in favor of adopting the minutes as submitted signify by saying aye.
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 All right. And so we'll move on. Thank you. We'll move on to Mr. Bedoli and your presentation.
All right, great. Well, thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'll be pretty brief today. I know we met last month to talk about the Webster Lot project and obviously the implications to the parking authority. At that meeting, I talked about us engaging a financial consultant, economic impact analysis firm. We've since done that. And we actually had our kickoff meeting, and then we had a subsequent meeting directly with Chairman Rains and Jim Travers' group to go over the scope and make sure we were hitting all the specific points of discussion that we had talked about, particularly, obviously looking at the impact any loss of revenue would occur if, from a disposition of Webster, but also how the Webster interplays with the overall system and the parking authority and management. So we're actively collecting data right now. We established a direct connection between our consultant, obviously Jim's office and Laz, and they're assembling information, and they're going to be coming, putting forth some analysis in the coming weeks here. So we'll keep you all posted. Just wanted to make sure we had a chance to touch base and know that the work is being done and entertain any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Bedoli. Are there questions from the other board members?
Not at this time.
No.
Brian, do you have an estimate on when you'd like to see this come to fruition, or have a report to submit for our review?
Yeah, we're hoping in the next 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to have something. It may be sooner than that, but it's going to be dependent on the availability of data and once they get their hands on it, how we scope it, but I'll keep you posted as we move forward.
Excellent. Thank you.
So
Go
just,
ahead.
Brian, in the next month or 2 or 3, we might see you back here to share that data.
Yeah, hopefully I could come back next month and we have something to report back. But we'll have to take a look and see how far we get with the data. They just got in their possession, and I haven't had an update call with them.
Okay.
So let's just see where that's at. But the plan is we want to get this, examined and resolved because it's an important thing that we can't really move forward on any negotiation because it's a big outstanding item. You know, who's going to own the parking garage, how it's going to be constructed, X, Y, and Z. We've been interrogating concurrently a number of grants and financing opportunities that we're also planning to present. Obviously with the goal of trying to retain a cash flow for the parking authority as it makes sense, while, you know, structuring parking, which is a quite expensive proposition typically.
Okay. Sounds good to me.
Great.
If there's no other questions, thank you very much, Mr. Bedoli. It's good to see you, and we'll see you hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Yep. And you know where to find me in the meantime. If you guys need anything, just let me know.
Thank you, Brian.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
So we'll move to the next agenda item, which I believe is the financial operating report.
Hi, thank you, Matt. Hi, everybody. Rocky, do you want to share the screen? There we go. Thanks, Rocky. Let me just put something up. Everything's back here. Okay. So for the month of March, we have a good month on the revenue side. That was parking revenue basically on budget. Expenses were favorable to budget, which led to a favorable fund balance. Year to date, we're still showing progress from all revenue sources, really, except for monthly is still a little lagging behind, mainly from the train stations. But revenue year to date is on the parking revenues up over 8%. Expenses are still down. So that's created a very favorable fund balance. Transient revenue for the month is a little down, mainly from Maritime Garage, from Webster, but year to date been up. And I think that's mainly from the train stations. So we're seeing some recovery there. Meters and violations are still over budget. On the expense side, we're seeing compared to budget for month and year to date, we are favorable to budget, which is good. Comparing to last year, or in year to date and last year, revenues have been up about a little over 4%. Violations are actually down compared to last year to date, about 11%. Expenses are pretty much very similar to last year to date, just barely a fraction of a percent higher. And we can move on to the variance report. That there, okay. Excuse me for 1 sec here. Okay. So on the variance report, parking violations continue to be over budget, and we will see that through the end of the year. And that was mainly, I think we talked about in 1 month due to the comparison to budget. When compared to February, actual was actually down violation revenue, but we had budgeted, in March, a little over 2,600 tickets. Actual was 2,700, but the big difference was what we talked about before. Our actual collection per ticket was actually much higher than was budgeted, and so that is the reason why we're mainly over budget. It's not always necessarily that we're, you know, over in the ticket issuance amount. On security services, moving on to the expenses, this is one of those line items again that we fixed in the 2024 budget, because we had a lot of straight line expenses over the year, and some of it was, some of it's paid quarterly, like these security service bills are quarterly service payments that were made in January. So that's why for March it shows under budget. So in April you will see another quarterly payment or some quarterly payments there. On the equipment expenses, same, those were deferred expenses were related to vehicles. So we're redeploying the customer service vehicles. We talked about that before. So we could eliminate that need to purchase a new vehicle. So we will run those until it doesn't make any more economic sense to run those because of repairs and maintenance costs. And then we can tackle the replacement plan, in the future. Vehicle expenses are over budget. We had 2 repairs done to maintenance and an enforcement vehicle this month. Building repair and maintenance is under budget for the month. We had some repairs that were completed in March, but they weren't paid until actually April. So you'll see some of that come next month. Actual year to date, where you'll notice that that's actually over because we've had some repairs, generator repairs, some broken pipes that were repaired. So there's accumulation of some things that contribute to being over budget year to date.
Stati, can I just
And this line
interject?
item number 2 is one that we. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Sorry, Judd has a question. I just want to
Thank you.
Okay.
get too far afield.
Just wondering why is the collection value 44% higher, even though the actual ticketing is down?
Say that again, Judd.
The collected value of tickets is higher, but you said the actual number of tickets are lower, right?
See, no, the actual number of tickets is actually higher.
Okay.
But the actual variance is geometrically higher because what we budgeted for the average ticket value was much less than what was actually paid. So people may be paying later, or and the fines double, triple. So the average ticket collected was higher. So that's where it's coming from. Yeah, there was more. I think it was 2,600. I said we had budgeted, and about a little over 2,700 was actual tickets.
But you think that dollar increase is often due to late payments?
Yes, I think so, and it could be for that month, because when we budget for we try to look at historical trends and we look at actuals from previous years and months. So we do actually put some thought into what each month's budget is, and the $25 now, it was $25.11 actually. In retrospect, was probably a little low.
Okay.
Any other questions on that?
No, not for me.
Okay.
Thanks. Yep.
Snow removal favorable, of course, to budget because of the low snowfall accumulations this year, and the parking program. We had 2 DKA invoices that were paid in March. But year to date, we are on below. If you want to move to Rocky to the full P&L statement, the highlighted lines are the ones we just discussed. And if anybody has questions on any of that, we can try to answer that. There was a question on security services, and that is from Canon Technologies. That is the camera system, also the blue lights we have in some of the facilities. That's Stanley, and alarm services, monitoring services, and that's where that comes from. And we will plan on looking at those contracts and rebidding those. Canon is the company that installed and maintains the cameras now. That's where probably the majority of the cost is. So we will be looking at that. Any other questions on any specific line items or? Okay. Well, seeing none, we'll move down to the pre-COVID report. So compared to March of 2019, revenues are down a little over 19%. Expenses are down much greater, about almost 39% compared to March of 2019. Then moving on, system-wide activity, you can see we're below or pretty much year-to-date close to pre-COVID levels from a system-wide transient activity viewpoint. We're 1.4% below pre-COVID, and revenue is about 8% below pre-COVID. Permits, those remain steady, but still below pre-COVID levels, and you can see where it's been over the last couple of years. The on-street operation has seen an uptick in transient activity from last month, basically following seasonal trends. Revenue was up compared to last month as well. And compared to pre-COVID, this has been one area that where we've surpassed pre-COVID levels. The revenue was up 20% compared to pre-COVID March.
And that's all bringing the whole city into one graph there, right? I mean, does one area stand out more than another area?
So this, Peter, is just on street for all areas. So the Wall Street district, the Sono district combined. We can certainly split that up, or we can make a note for next month if you want us to report on that.
Well, if it all seems to be in the same ballpark, well, it seems accurate enough. But if it varied greatly, I guess we'd want to know that.
Yeah, noted. Well noted. Let me make a note here. Unless Rocky,
sorry, Sadi, I just want to Peter, if you take a quick peek at the 24 budget, it's also broken out by lot location. on revenue, that might help inform a little bit of, kind of
Where-
the adjacency.
Where is that?
It's page 2 of the budget. I know that's not the on-street, which is what you're looking for, but it might kind of help inform. Your monthly and transient is listed by location.
Okay.
Which, Stati, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure that that's informed by prior performance.
Right, I can pull up the budget. That didn't, I didn't have that.
Just for directional guidance kind of thing, yeah,
Yep.
until we get a better report, yeah.
So, yeah, Matt, you were looking at, well, which one again?
Page 2 of the 24 budget that shows revenue and expenses broken out by location.
Oh, right, the one that has the locations across the top.
Yeah,
Well, that has the meter revenue, but not necessarily split up.
it's not split up by street, but
Split up Sono versus Wall.
Right.
I mean, and you'd expect the Sono to have to drive more of the revenue just because of the rate structure. But in terms of transactions, that's something I'll made a note of, so maybe we can give the board an idea of the comparison.
great.
Okay. Let's see, moving on to enforcement. Ticket issuance was down a little bit, 15%, year to date compared to last year. And revenue was down during the same period as well. And compared to last month, same thing, it's been down. Then we've got some collections too, and through March, and you can see that. And violation revenue represents about 19.5% of system revenues, which is down from last year. At one point we were, I think, 21%. Moving on to the judge report. So the ratio of tickets issued versus demand has dropped for the month of March. It's hard to really see any kind of seasonal trends because it does jump around. But so it's 2.7%, meaning 2.7 tickets out of every, or 2.7 tickets out of every 100 transactions. And then part B of the judge report is the demand analysis, or the ratio on a street by street basis.
I see you have in the Wall Street area, you have the lots broken out, but the streets, is it possible in the future to get it broken out by street?
Yes.
Because it is the whole, the line where it says Wall Street area is 3.7, which is, a point higher than most other areas on the list.
Yeah, this is Rocky. To compare it to prior years.
No, I just want to compare it to other streets and things. So I know you and I kind of talked about that, but
going forward, I think we'll be able to do that because we did change and Rocky, correct me if I'm wrong, but because we did change the zone numbers. So before everything was just 2040 zone, so that's why it was all kind of aggregated together.
okay.
So you'll eventually see that going forward. Right, Rock?
Going forward after this year, because even though we changed those zone numbers this year, we don't have historical data to go back to compare it what it was in the prior years.
Yeah, I just want to see what it's running this year, like.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I think what you'll see is probably this list expanded.
mhm.
Then you just won't see anything in the prior years. You'll just see kind of a current number.
Yeah, that's okay. I just like to see what the problem streets are in Wall Street.
Right, right. Okay. The pay by cell program has certainly been a bright spot, continues to be. It's up significantly, activity and revenue. Right now, the pay by cell transactions represent almost 25% of system transactions and a little over 12% of system-wide revenue, which is good. And there was a request last month, I think, Matt, you may have asked it, if the average transaction system-wide, how that compares to the pay by cell transaction. So for March, the system-wide was about $2.14, and the pay by cell was $2.78. And so that you can see those in the fourth and fifth bullet points. So that's something we'll continue to keep in the report so you can see that.
Thank you. Judd, do you still have a question? Sorry.
No,
Okay, no worries. I just wanted to make sure.
thank you.
So that's the end of the report unless there's questions. There's one thing I will also add from an action item from previous board meeting, collection rates. I think, Matt, that might have been your question again too. I don't remember. So our collection rate, our windshield rate is about 50%, meaning that people who pay right from the citation that's issued on their windshield, they either come in or pay online, and they didn't receive a notice. So that is a pretty good rate. And the overall kind of clearance rate, a lot of people define overall collection rates differently, but what we're calling a clearance rate is about 87%, which is good. And that is defined as all the fully paid tickets, including dismissed, void, the warnings, divided by the number of tickets issued. And so that is a pretty typical way to measure that metric.
So just a quick question, if like you, and I believe you 100% that that's a good indication, a good percentage and so forth, but are some of these things, do they have like benchmarks? I don't know, from the Parking Authority Association of America or anything, I'm just making things up. I'm a newbie. So I'm just trying to, and I don't doubt that these are good ratios or bad ratios, or like the cell phone payments are going up, and are we better than most on stuff like that, or we're catching up with other municipalities?
Yeah, I think you're better. I mean, the industry average, and again, take that with a grain of salt, they say is about 75% collection rate. So you're above that.
Right. So, and like I said, I believe you 100%. But how would, looking at these numbers, because there's so many numbers, and being a guy that doesn't know Parking Authority numbers, how do we know where we fall in the mix?
Yeah. So I mean, that's something that we can gather some data on. If you want to see where Norwalk stands compared to other communities, we can find some of that information. And
yeah, I mean, I don't think it's important to compare us to Southern California or or Chicago or something, but I don't know if there was something for whether it's Connecticut or New England or whether a little bit closer to home. I don't know if these things exist. I'm just not. Sure.
Yeah, they do exist for any community that actually uses technology for issuing citations, and most do. If we can get access to that data, or they're willing to share it, we can compile.
Yeah, is there any house that provides this, you know, that we're part of an association, like I said, for lack of a better, I just don't know. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
Right. Well, I mean, you have the National Parking Association that we're involved with, and so basically the data is only available if a community is willing to share it. So, so it's just easier for us, I think, to just find, we can do that. That'll get maybe more countrywide.
Yes, because I'd love to say, hey, we're doing a bang up job with collecting and so forth, and this and that, and it just makes you feel good, like you're doing a good job and so forth.
So yeah, if you are okay leaving it to us to try to pull some data together, it's nice to see how you compare to other communities, just as data point, not necessarily mean they're not
Yeah,
doing it.
and I'm not trying to make you do more work. I'm sure you're plenty busy enough.
That's why you pay us, and that's what we're here for. So we can compile that. It'd be good to see kind of where Norwalk is compared to other communities outside of the state too. Even if it is California, I think it's always good to have more data points than less. So if you leave that to us, we'll put together what we think you might want to see, comparable maybe operations or communities, and then we can talk about it next month. And if there's something else that you want,
Peter, can
Yes.
I just get what exactly are you looking for? I just want to make sure that we follow up correctly to get you exactly what you're looking for.
I just don't, I'm a newbie. So like I said, if you guys tell me these are good numbers, I believe you. I just don't have any comparison to this type of stuff. And you guys have done this for a long time. So that's
so.
why
What comparison are you looking for? You comparison the pay by sale data,
Collection rate,
collections, and what people tend to do with collections. Do they write them off after a year? Are they're no longer an asset? I don't know what everybody else kind of does.
So I could tell you, we'll get some numbers. Our collection numbers are fairly consistent and sometimes a little bit better than what we're seeing from a couple other municipalities that I have bid in. Typically typically it's not where nobody really writes off the old data, because it actually from the perspective of the state of Connecticut. So as they mark all tickets. So like if you have 5 unpaid tickets, you can no longer register your car. So that they coalesce all the data. So typically no one really writes it off. We do see historically, though, that the longer a ticket remains unpaid, the less likelihood that we actually receive payment. So that's why we look at other types of creative methods, or sometimes going out. So like we'll see sometimes a larger hit, like in a vast stoppie to take a look at what's the April timeframe, because we saw some older tickets being paid in April. So is that those are times where maybe people are getting refund checks for their taxes and they're choosing to pay some of the old debt, because we had some higher numbers come up from some of the older tickets. We don't necessarily know what prompted them to do it at that time, but let us take a look a little bit around. We have some people that we could touch base with other municipalities, and we'll make sure that we get that for you.
Yeah, I agree with you. The longer it goes, the less likely it is to get paid. I know we talked about briefly maybe giving some kind of a amnesty period to try to get 50 cents on the dollar than nothing at all.
Yeah.
So that's what I was just trying to explore.
Okay. Yep. We'll definitely get that.
Thanks.
Peter, I'll also send you some links to NPA, IPMI, and get you some reading material as well, just for your comfort.
Yeah, I just have nothing to compare it to a little bit. Thank you.
IPA, International Parking Association?
National Parking Association and the International Parking and Mobility Institute. Am I
Okay.
right in that?
Thanks.
So that's the end of our report, unless anybody has further questions.
Thank you, Sathi. Appreciate it. So we'll move to our next point, which is our engineering and project updates. And Jim, I'll give you the helm to steer on that if you'd like. You're on mute, Jim.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I realized I got that little bar that jumped up. So just dealing with a couple last, so the Haviland construction projects, I met with to get the third bid in. We looked at who are, even though we have an on-call provider from Desmond who's been doing the services, I really wanted to look at, in total, what we can get. So with regarding the stairs, we met on site. And they put together something for me. I just got it, but just before this meeting, I haven't given it time. So we also looked at the walkway through. It's in pretty poor shape. We wanted to have that whole experience. I think they came up with some really good ideas. So and interesting to see how it proceeds, but that one continues to move forward. We did save money early on. I think from last year, just to work on this, and I do think, my desire was that we were going to have something in place for this summer because, I mean, in all fairness, when the people who park on the Haviland parking deck, when they exit the deck and come into the walkthrough, they have to pass by all the dumpsters. As you get a 80-90 degree day, it's not the most pleasant experience for them to visit. So I desperately wanted to have a better experience. So we're looking at that. I hopefully will have enough time to put something together, and we will be able to put some resolution to that next month. So the Yankee Doodle garage facade, we continue to meet with THA on advancing that design. In advance of that, as we started this process, I recognized that we had not done a conditions assessment in a number of years, for the facility. And I did not want to completely go down the path of doing facade improvements only to find out that there's concrete issues that we should have dealt with before. And I had thought that the condition assessment was a little bit more up to date than what I found as the most recent one. So we have that. We've had that done. I met him on site this week. We looked at some of the things. There are improvements that need to be made. I think we'll be in a position to be able to financially afford them without any issue. But he is putting together a bid packet for me. We will provide that bid packet to you to show you what that extent looks like. But I think it just goes, I understand the authority's decision to hold off investments, in the middle of COVID when we didn't know. I get that. I think that some of the issues that we've been dealing with really are just a result of when we put things on hold, right? The weather doesn't stop. They still stay out, and we still get all the same stuff. The things that we're dealing with, such as the meter replacement and some of the improvements needed to facilities, are just results of just deferred maintenance. And we have been working hard to bring those back up to speed. The Yankee Doodle garage is no different. We have some. We did recognize some of the issues with the coating for the Haviland parking deck. So we'll look at what those improvements are as well. There is nothing in any of our facilities that puts any of them in imminent danger, right? We're not, risking anything most of them are really things that we should do to keep the system in a good state of repair, but if left unattended to, they would result in issues. So the facade enhancement moving forward as on schedule, but we will look to do any concrete work ahead of that, and we'll put those in front of you for next month.
Thanks, Jim. We'll look forward to taking a quick peek at that. And moving forward, I'm excited for the Yankee Doodle facade enhancement. So be looking to take care of some of those mid-level issues to make sure that we're appropriately caring for the facility moving
Yeah,
forward.
well, and it's also funny too, because I was out there today and I ran into the woman who's opening a restaurant there, and she had seen it too, and she was very, like, when are we gonna get it done? What, so I think there is a little bit of a buzz, right? Just to have it, have it improved. So I think when we can break ground, it'll make some people happy.
Thanks, Jim. Does anyone have any questions about Jim's presentation for either Haviland or the Yankee Doodle? Hearing none, we'll move to new business. And our first item in new business is actually item B, which is the 23-24 operating budget.
So Staffy, you want to bring up the budget? I'll stop sharing. And you want to go through the budget with the board? So did everyone receive the budget in advance of the meeting? I did send it out to you. Just wanted to make sure that you had enough time to review.
Yes, yes.
Fantastic. Okay, Staffy, you want to
Yep.
take over?
On the 20, let me make sure I have the right one here.
I can share that PDF of that if you want.
Can you, Rock? That's the one, the V5.1. Rock, is that the V5.1?
Yes, that.
Yeah, it is. I see. Okay. Um, all right, Jim, so just start from the top.
Starting from the top.
Start from the top, okay. So we budgeted for 2024 a 3% increase to our forecast, which brings us to about 6.6 million. Expenses fall in at about almost 6.5, leaving a fund balance of 161,000. We're seeing an increase that came from on the monthly side of the revenue stream, where people are coming back to work. We're seeing more activity. The transient side, we budgeted to be about the same. It's actually a little down. Meters is basically on point, and violations are a little bit more than forecast, but below last year. And then on the expense side, I don't know if we want to move. Should we move Rocky to the what's on the next page? The narrative there.
Okay, Sal, you want to mention about transient decline that we incorporated at due to the closure of North Water parking lot?
Right. So that's where that drop comes from. Then on the expense side, anything else revenue on the Rocky on the revenue side that I missed?
No, that was the major one that we took in effect, that the cutback from the closure of the North Water parking lot.
And then on,
That's that 22,744 difference, more or less, Brock?
Yes.
Correct.
right,
Okay.
and then on the other revenue,
So let me just, so it's our best guess, right? Because it's through where we're talking to Condot about when they anticipate to take it. You know, we're working with them as much as we can, but you know, from where they told us is that's where the number that we think is going to land. You know, if they take it earlier, you know, they have an ability to take, right? So if they take it earlier, it obviously would enlarge it. If they don't take it, if they take it later and don't have it, but you know, from what we see of the management of the, you know, the deconstruction of the IMAX theater, this is kind of where we think that is going to land.
Good.
and then on the other revenue, we're showing a little more revenue there, and that's on the new concessions agreements on the westbound station and from the vending machines. So that's where that's what's driving that increase. And then on the expense side, we're showing an increase on the payroll side because we added a couple FTEs, and you know, on top of wage increases. For we added a customer service rep over on the eastbound side. We're building out that space there and increasing our presence there. And there's a maintenance position that was also included there.
That customer service rep is there every day, pretty much?
So that Bill said that this is for the next budget year.
Right, you're right. Okay.
John, we
Yep.
anticipate that will be able to be done by construction, but you remember we created that space on that side of the station because that's where we were seeing some challenging activities. And we wanted to increase the presence so that and make people feel comfortable. So that construction is still underway and should be completed by then. So we'll backfill into a position to fill that. And then, you know, maintenance has been something that we have been looking diligently on in the train station, and you know, our desire to improve the facility and you know, to be in a position to more welcome people back. I think, you know, we've looked very hard at what we need to add to that. And so that would be the other one. So they are positions that we would look to add to on July 1. So effective July 1, there should be somebody over there. Yes.
And they would be there 5 days a week or something.
So we were thinking like at the initial part of it that they're going to be at the peak travel times. So, you know, so we'll look at the, you know, at being able to staff that and move things around so that somebody will be there for the peak travel times, even on the weekend, right? When we're seeing, you know, higher travel numbers, but, you know, certainly there'll be somebody there, you know, at the AM and PM commute.
Right.
And then on the other expenses, the major contributors to that are really on the snow removal, because we had such a light winter. We have a placeholder there for almost 178,000. We only forecasted to spend about 75 this year, so that's a big piece of the other expenses. We've also added an increased budget for kind of outreach, Park Norwalk branding, and that's in the marketing and communications side of things. We've done an upgrade to the permit system and violation system. So there's a little bit of an increase there. Let's see, what else did we actually? Snow, I mentioned, and building repair and maintenance. We have 554,000 in that budget, which is a little bit more than we're forecasting this year or at the time the budget was made. but lower than it was last year. And so we're trying to be able to catch up on some projects that were deferred, through COVID. And that's really the high level piece. The debt service is actually dropped a little. So at the end of the day, that leaves us about 161,000, like you said. Brock, you want to go to the next page? And this will show by location how the budget's split up.
So for the board on this one, the interesting thing that is drawn to me is that when sales tax was implemented, I think this was 3 years ago. The Parking Authority Board opted not to pass the sales tax on to the consumer and instead absorb it. So that is a $326,000 a year tax that we're absorbing. If at some point in time in the future we want to revisit that, we could look at, we could wait to, it's not an item for voting. It's an item for future thought of, of what that means. When we look at it, in its total, it's $326,000.
Yeah, I think in the future.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's a
Staffy,
lot,
continue
a
on.
lot of money. Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
yeah.
Right. What were you asking, Jim?
You can move on.
Okay. Okay. And then the annual budget, this is just by line item. So I don't know if anybody has questions on any specific line items.
Yep. I got a couple.
Go ahead, Judd.
The uniforms, it's, we're currently what, 28,000 going up to 40. What's the big increase?
Yep, I forgot to mention that. So with the new Park Norwalk logo, we put a little more in there for rebranding all the uniforms. So there'll be, in the past where we're just replacing uniforms from time to time. Now we're gonna have to make a larger purchase to rebrand and put everybody in new gear.
Judd, you may recall we showed you the different color sleeve, and you're really tying into an ambassador mode versus like the enforcement mode. So much more of a friendlier, environment. And as we continue to, expand the rebranding, we just look at some more investment into that as, we'd want to transition people over to the new wardrobe.
Okay, just to deviate from this for a minute, you mentioned enforcement. I notice on the vehicles, it says parking enforcement. I don't know if there's a friendlier language that we could put on there, like we've gone from being the Parking Authority to Park Norwalk. Just something to think about. I was behind one of the vehicles last week, and I thought that it sounds kind of aggressive, parking enforcement. So,
yep.
I think if we can look at it, it's a dual-edged sword, because if we're so friendly on it and we're out there, then someone's going to think like, like we're just trying to be like, we're trying to skate through and get it right. As enforcement as bad as it is, somebody sees it, that is often a prompt that says, "Oh shoot, let me pay
Okay.
for this and not
Good
risk
point.
it."
And just with the overall budget, the fund balance at 161 is pretty low historically. Would you agree, Staffy?
Yeah. Yes. Historically, you're right. I mean, you've been on the board long enough. Usually, We try to keep that at, 250, 300 to give us some room. But I think we feel pretty confident that coming out of COVID, that it's not going to get worse. But yes, you're right. It is tight, and we're still going to manage, expenses best we can. And as we go through and operate, we'll continue to use best practices. But if we see things going in the opposite direction, then we may need to scale back on some things. So maybe some of the building repair and maintenance projects that we saved for the last quarter of the year, maybe that's something we need to relook at, because that has usually been the line item where when we do have a healthy year, we plow more money back into that to reinvest into the assets, into the repairs and maintenance of them. So yes, you're right. It is lower than usual.
But again, it's a budget, and we can adjust as we go through the months, right?
Right.
Okay.
We will manage it accordingly. So these are the line item amounts. What do we have next, Rocky? The next slide. Or does anybody have any questions on that? Or okay, so this is basically the same line item, but this, maybe we should have gone to this first, but this has the narrative that'll describe the line items. So if you have some questions on it, hopefully that answers it. If not, we can try to answer it tonight or at some future point.
Stadi, on some of these line items where you're back feeding in and you're looking to fill from previous fiscal years, I think, I would feel comfortable if you were able to tell me whether or not these were a 3 or 5 year average that you were kind of backfilling in, where we're looking to fill moving forward. I feel like that would give me a level of comfort in that we're both protected and we're utilizing prior performance to inform our future assumptions. But that's really the only comment that I have. And to Judd's point, this is a budget, and we'll look to see what we can forecast in the future. Appreciate it.
Okay, we'll make note of that.
Matt, we can send you the 5-year trend that we actually used when we were preparing this, so I can send you that data as well.
Thanks so much, Rocky. I appreciate that.
And then the last slide is just a pie chart. I think that's the last one, right, Rocky? Oh, no, that's the continuation of budget narrative. And the debt service piece too, I'm just seeing that note, comes from the city, so we just layer that in. And then here's a snapshot from revenue buckets and expense buckets.
Stadi, I missed one note that I just kind of wanted to ask about on the revenue side. Are you considering any kind of short-term or partial permit sales to try and boost our overall permit revenue?
So you mean like a weekly or a 2-week or something like that?
Yeah.
So that's been something that we've kind of talked about from time to time, and I think before you were on the board too, I think Judd and Eric, we had some conversations about this is really coming out of COVID. Do we have to look at things a little differently? And because of people that are working a hybrid work schedule, do we need to make some accommodations for that? So this has been kind of an industry-wide problem or discussion, and I don't know that anybody's fallen on one great solution. I think it's really case-by-case basis, but I can tell you where we've kind of fallen in my little world. And the thought was really that, that's why we have a couple different rates. You have your monthly rate, And then for people that are that are working 3 to 4 days a week, that come back 3 or 4 days a week, it may make more economic sense for them to be a monthly parker. But if they're not, and they're only working maybe 2 days a week, then maybe, that's why you have that daily rate. So we've kind of fallen on, there's already some options, and didn't really need to kind of overthink it, because then, there may be some equipment limitations depending on the location, and how we do that on a ungated lot. And so there's some challenges with that in the ungated, locations. In the gated facilities like the train station, maritime garage, those there's some more options to be able to do something like that. So that's something, if you want us to maybe summarize some of those thoughts, we can do that, and then have a discussion of where we think kind of the pros and cons are, and then whatever the board decides to do, we can implement. But at least you'll have some more background on it. And we are going through an equipment replacement RFP now, and I think Jim might be talking about that later in the agenda. But with the new state-of-the-art equipment that's out there, we're able to accommodate things like that. So that's something to think about.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get, Matt, is that, so I'll touch base on it a little bit, but I am attending the parking conference in June. And this is one of the items that, I know that other municipalities are struggling with, and just want to see, like, from the industry, if people are seeing anything out there. But I think what we really want to do is bring the best of the best type of, approaches to these, these garages. So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think, this is a discussion about opportunity and flexibility for people in Norwalk. So if there's an opportunity, I think we owe it to explore it.
Yep.
Sorry,
go ahead, Satya. It's back to you.
Oh, no, if you have another question, I was just going to piggyback on what Jim said. Like, there's different ways to slice it with the equipment. With, pay by debit with a different rate, or maybe an access card allows them 2 days stay a week, and then if they overstay that, then they pay whatever the posted rate is, or the drive up rate. So there's some options. We just need to talk through them, I think.
Great.
And then the last slide was basically the breakup in the pie chart, and give you.
Copy, can I take the pie chart for 1 second? Because, I just want to touch base with the board, because, for those that saw the article in the paper, or, when on the BET, there was discussion about, our violations are double the amount of the meter collections, right? And I think the pie chart really talks about it, right? Because I think that is, when you look at it simply as that narrative, but our violations aren't solely related to the meter. They're related to the transient parking. They're related to the monthly parking that happen in the garage. So violations are really 20% of the revenue source, not as it was indicated, in the questioning, right? And I think that, I think we always try to do better, but the violations are also not solely related to parking transactions, right? So there are safety violations that of tickets that gets held, as well as somebody blocking a crosswalk, someone blocking a travel lane. Those are not related to a parking transaction. Those are really, those are safety violations that I think that we, parking too close to a corner, right? That we take a look at. It has been my desire to expand the opportunity for the parking authority, and it's been a something that I've discussed with the administration is, really giving the authority, more citywide power, because what we get is frustration from the residents who call up for a particular issue of, somebody blocking, somebody parking illegally on their street. And that's out of our jurisdiction, right? Our jurisdiction is in the areas in which we serve. It is confusing for them, because as it was indicated to me by one resident who repeatedly called the office for a violation, and we were referring them to the police department. He told me that I was shirking my responsibility, and he goes, "So you're trying to tell me that you're the parking department, but you're not in charge of parking, right?" And I think when you look at it simplistically from a resident standpoint, right, it's valid, right? Like I have a parking problem. It's not like a paid parking problem, but I think those are, so if that happens, it is. But I think the pie chart was really just there to show you that the violations really represent 20% of the funds that are created. The vast majority of funds are really paid for by, are really there for people who pay for their parking. So that's it.
Thanks, Jim. Judd, you had something?
Yeah, I mean, transient and meters aren't they the same in a sense? I mean,
no, the transient are going to be our, what's in our lots. The meters are really the on-street parking meters.
okay. But the violations are cover transient and meters both. So
and would also be the monthly, right? They would be there for those people who are parking illegally in the garage, maybe over a limit, over a lane, taking up 2 lanes, any of the violations that occur in the garages as well.
right. So that 20% is really 20% of total. It's not. I know most people, the public tends to look at street parking as
That's the only thing. Yeah.
That's the only thing. So
Yeah. Just highlighted for you.
Yep.
That was it. Okay. Any other questions on the budget?
not for me.
Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to accept the budget as submitted.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Peter, I didn't catch.
Aye.
one. Okay,
Yes.
sorry, thanks. All right,
Gotcha.
so it's passed and approved, and thank you. And we will move to our next point of business, which is the parks system.
So this is just a discussion item. I think Staffy, alluded to it a little bit earlier. Again, product of deferred maintenance is, we've had money reserved for park systems for, the replacement in the Sono and the maritime garages, and in recent times, it is brought into light that the bubble gum and shoestring that we've been holding these systems with together are failing at an alarming rate. So we've been looking at getting 3 different vendors in for a solution. We will hear those in May. I will take that as an item and look at the parking show that occurs in June to come back with a solution that we will present to you to replace in these facilities. Our desire is that we have a state-of-the-art system that is representative of the model of parking, that we want to put forward with. We think that we could use the latest and greatest in technology to make someone who is a permitted parker their visit much easier on them, and work at getting out our transient visitors in a much more efficient manner. So more on this. The item will stay on there until we're done, but you understand that it is the desire to replace the park system in our two major garages where they are at end of life as we see it. Any questions? Okay, so we'll keep more on that one.
Okay, that is there any other new business?
That is all for new business.
Okay, and we had a discussion in old business on the 15-minute free option, Mr. Travers.
Right, so this kind of goes hand in hand with A and B, right? So the pay station delivery has come in, and Sirac has been working at getting these pay stations installed with the new Halo. We are awaiting the new screens for Wall Street. Sirac, when are those going to be? Have we got a delivery confirmation for those yet?
Yes, Jim, the equipment has already been delivered, and we're just waiting for a technician to come out install those in the Uptown, in the Wall Street area.
Okay, so what I've asked Sirac to do is, so all of the pay stations are running the current code. I want the new pay stations and the new screens to run our current code to make sure that there's not a problem, right? And then we will look for them to operate, once the other meters get installed, the new installed, so they're all running the same service in the city. We'll let them run for about a week, and then we will schedule a presser that we hope that the board will come out for, because I think it's pretty innovative. We wrote the code with the providers, so we're the first one to do this, where you'll be able to go to this parking, you'll be able to go to the pay station, hit 15 minutes and get it there and turn any space into that free 15-minute parking space. So I think it's speaks to the new Park Norwalk, right? And that, so as soon as the delivery is made, we will be in touch with you guys via email to move that along. So I think it's exciting. I hope you share it with.
So when everything's said and done, all the pay stations, the new ones and the old ones, will have the same interface, because the old ones are getting new screens.
Yep. Yeah. So in order to do this, it needs to have the wider screen. And then simultaneously, we are putting the blue halo on all of them. So it'll be, it'll be more easily identified as a parking pay station with the new halo that's LED solar.
Are any of those halos up and running yet?
Sappy, Sirac, do we have the halos on the new ones in Sono?
Yes, there should be on, because we did get a confirmation today that they're sending the programming for the halos to be on, because we have to program them so they don't drain out the batteries, not to be on during the daytime. They should be on today. I'll actually, when I leave the office, I'll check those out. I'll text you, Judd, if they're actually on or not.
You're on mute, Judd.
Yeah, I'll see it when they're up and running. I'm just curious.
So they might be up and running today. It might.
Okay.
Okay, that was it. And then the last item was just an update to the coffee shop lease. So the lease has been the lease was presented to the property manager, who's been in communication with the leasee, and she has it with her attorney. They're reviewing it. We have been readying the space for the requirements that we needed to do in order to lease the space. We are all very excited that to finally have a home in there, and she seems to be very excited moving forward. So hopefully there'll be something in there soon. And then just also a last minute addition to this, which also goes by the lease. We received a check from Lobster Craft, so that lease is also up to date. Well, nearly up to date. We have, they have to pay current, they haven't paid current month. Or the security deposit, but we continue to move forward to that, but it is up to date, so,
Wow, good to hear that.
yes.
Jim, I have an update. It's up to date. We're just waiting for the deposit payment.
All right, perfect. I mean, the other one, that's fantastic.
That's great.
I got one thing before we
Okay.
go. I was contacted this week again by Nancy Rosette for the NRVT, Norwalk River Valley Trail. They're having an event on Saturday, May 6th, and are asking for free parking in the Yankee Doodle Garage. As I've said, with Wall Street's current state of underuse, I think it's a good idea. I wouldn't support something like this at the Maritime Garage, which gets a lot of use. But I do think it could help introduce some people to the Wall Street area. They park in the Yankee Doodle Garage. They're going to have to walk on Wall Street, cross Belden, and over to Union Park. And so I'd like to make a motion that we provide that free parking on May 6th at the Yankee Doodle Garage.
I would second that.
Okay, there's a motion and a second on the floor, and we'll open for discussion.
Okay.
Judd, personally, I think and correct me if I'm wrong, the hourly rate at the Yankee Doodle Garage is 25 cents.
Oh, I know.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's a matter of the money. But go ahead.
No, my concern is, I'm more than happy to welcome folks to utilize the Yankee Doodle Garage, but with a low barrier to entry such as a quarter, it seems to me that it would be a great opportunity to get them to adapt to how the pay system works there, rather than give the appearance that an increase in activity would also then mean that people who returned might not be inclined to pay because the last time they came through, there wasn't enforcement.
Okay.
So that's my only
Yeah,
concern
no,
at a
good
25
points.
cent.
Yeah, I agree. It's not the money. It's just the word free. It's just free has a ring to it where some people will like they're getting something and just get people there and do the walk and stuff, which is just a real positive thing. It's not the money.
I do challenge you though, what do you do with the next group that comes in and says they want free parking, right? What happens when the Nice Festival says they want free parking? What happens when the Oyster Festival says they want free parking?
Well, I know we've talked about that before. That's a good point. The last people who asked for it was Earth Day over a year ago. They did not ask for it this time. So, and again, it's not something I would support in South Norwalk, which is much busier. So, I just want people to come to Wall Street, and as Peter said, it's just free. So.
I agree with you that I'd love more people to come to Wall Street. And my only concern is, again, in that we're inviting them now. When they return, if they don't pay, because the last time they were under the assumption that it's free, and then they perhaps carry that assumption forward and they get a ticket, then, we're not doing ourselves the best service or them the best service by saying, hey, the last time you did come, right? We're kind of spoiling it a bit if they're not, adapting to that process of making the frictionless payment at that garage.
But commissioners, I also do have to remind you that you can't vote on an item that wasn't on the agenda 24 hours in advance. So you can't introduce a new item and vote on it today. You can introduce a new item to be added to the agenda for next month, but you can't introduce a new item and vote on it.
Okay, well, I guess it's dead in the water then, right? So. Okay, I thought that's what old business was for, but I guess it's.
No, old business is a discussion of the items that remain on there that we've added to the new business, and then they transition into old business.
Okay,
But even new business has to, you know, like items, Robert's rules requires that that the item is posted to the agenda 24 hours in advance.
okay. Well, there it is then, right?
I mean,
All right.
based on the timing for this particular event, yes, this means that we're not able to take the appropriate action on this.
Yeah, okay.
I'm not,
All right, well, next
it
time,
is what it is.
if,
Yeah,
if I'm gonna bring something like this, I'll know to put it on the agenda, so,
yeah.
okay,
Sorry about
All
that,
right.
Judd.
that's
So-
okay. Gotta follow the rules, right?
Just a quick question before maybe we move to adjourn. Jim, was there something with the reverse angle parking that was perhaps going to take place, or?
So it didn't make it on, we got notified by, you know, in all honesty, we just got notified by the mayor's office of to apply for a grant that came to their light that's given us 3 weeks to pull together. So more than all hands have been on deck to get that grant, which is, you know, hopefully going to get us the final leg of funding for the Wall Street corridor. So that, you know, that has been everything that we've done. So we have not had the opportunity to move forward with that design to get out to that thing. So we will have it for the next month. It's just this month. We
Was
just
busy.
ran out of time.
Okay, thanks.
And sorry, Jim, I'm not trying to keep you on the hook here. That we are less an associate director of parking at the moment, correct? And
Yes.
is we'll you know, we hope that search continues to yield some candidates in the future, we hope.
We've, you know, I sincerely hope. But you know, so we, you know, I was on the phone with some other people recently about, you know, searching for this. I think, you know, I think in some ways that becomes better than a lot of advertising, right? That so we were, but as a department, last week we filled the junior engineer position. Today, we got the acceptance of a senior engineer position. Those have been 2 critical positions. The junior engineer position has been open up for 11 months. So, you know, those will start to breathe a little life. But, you know, the reason I got the senior engineer is you're spending a day on the phone with every consulting agency that I've ever dealt with in my life. And it did get me someone who's referred, who is, I think, pretty fantastic. And we are more than excited that he is joining the team. So I can't wait for you all to meet him. He's great.
That's great.
And then I think that you know, we you know, I'm trying that same, and I may have a potential iron in the fire for the assistant director for parking. So hopefully that will pay off as well.
That would be great. We appreciate that, Jim, because we know that that'll help some of these things break loose a little bit.
Well, and then there's a lot of stuff like that, you know, like that we do. Like, you know, Haviland is going to be big. Yankee Doodle is going to be big. You know, making these getting the, you know, reversing the direction of just like having these items be on hold and actually starting to, you know, next year's budget was really looking at how do we get these things off and, you know, off hold and move them forward. And you know, I think that, you know, we have to do that, right? So we can't keep them on hold any longer. So.
And thank you for putting that budget together. I'm sure it's hours and hours of work, so.
It's a little time consuming.
Yeah, thank you, Siroc and Jim and Stock for working on that. And-
All right, thank
and
you.
getting it.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah, the team did a really great job.
Yeah.
All right.
With nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Motion in a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
I-
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we will meet next month. This closes the monthly meeting of the Parking Authority.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Right.
Have a
Good
good
night.
night.
Everybody.